I am so excited to be here today with Anna, the founder of LHTX, and also now the WellHouse Collective. This is a brand new business in Houston, and I cannot wait to dive in. So I want to start by talking about you and your wellness journey. I'm always kind of interested how people got interested in wellness to begin with, and I know you mentioned in your bio you were recovering from spinal surgery, looking for alternative ways to heal from that. Is that really what piqued your interest, or were there other things? What kind of got you interested in learning more?
I've always really been into health and wellness. I have a background in dietary science, and I have been a personal trainer or been in some aspect of the fitness world since college. So I've always been really interested and researched on whatever holistic or the newest holistic type supplements, or biohacking's been around for a long time. It's just really become super trendy. I really had to personally dive in deeper when I had a spinal injury 2 years ago. And that's what really kind of pushed me into all of the research for anything holistic that I could do to not be on painkillers and also not have to have spinal surgery. So that's when I found out from my neurologist about the hyperbaric chamber. I'd already been doing red light therapy for my face. I had no idea that it was beneficial for your entire body for anti-inflammation. So I really went on this journey to find anything and everything that was anti-inflammatory to prevent me from having to have surgery. Now, ultimately, I had to have surgery, which was fine, thank God. But along that journey, I was able to find the cryotherapy, the red light, the hyperbaric chamber, the infrared sauna. I mean, literally, I tried everything. And my surgeons were just shocked by how quickly my recovery was because I did all of these things prior to having the surgery.
That is incredible. I love that you really dove in and tried to find other ways. I think that's kind of what a lot of people are interested in learning more about WellHouse, especially. So I'm curious, you mentioned a few things. Infrared, I love infrared. I love my infrared face mask. I can't wait to try it full body. But cryo and hyperbaric chamber. What are the full range of offerings here, just so we can get a good picture of kind of everything that you've brought into one place?
So we have the red light prism therapy pod, which we're actually the only ones in Houston to have the full pod, and that's near infrared. Then we have cryotherapy, that gets negative 124. We have, and that's a chamber, so you're completely in. We have the hyperbaric, medical grade hyperbaric chamber as well. And then we have an infrared salt chamber. And we also have IVs, which we provide IVs, but we specialize in NAD therapy.
So I want to dive in to NAD. This is a topic that has been all over TikTok. I've seen tons of celebrities talking about NAD therapy and getting injections, and I've even looked into it myself. I was a little hesitant because I'm not sure exactly what it does, but I know that it's good for anti-aging. That's kind of what I've gathered from, honestly, TikTok. But I'm curious kind of if you could dive in a little more to what NAD actually does and how it can help you. I would love to learn more about that. And it's so cool that there's a place in Houston that you can get this done.
So NAD's been around for a really long time. So in layman's terms, or we just put this on our Instagram, like NAD for dummies. Think of NAD going into your body and energizing and rejuvenating every cell from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. Now, why Beverly Hills and LA is so obsessed with it? Because it's literally coined as the fountain of youth. It's not woo-woo. It's not, can it work? It works for everybody. Now, how it works best for different people is how often you do it, what milligrams you do it. So I actually found NAD 2 years ago because I wanted to get off of a ADHD medication that I was on and off since high school. And I'm like, I don't need this anymore. And my withdrawal symptoms were awful. And so I went down a deep rabbit hole, and I read that NAD really helps with any type of drug with withdrawals. Like whether you're addicted to heroin or you're on Lexapro, you know what I mean? It just really helps with those withdrawal symptoms. So I did a lot of research. I talked to my physician, and I did 6 weeks, once a week. of 250 to 500 milligrams, and I haven't touched Vyvanse in 2 years. And that's the first time I've ever really been able to be off. Now, what was incredible is that after doing that, I got all my friends. I'm like, guys, my hair will not stop growing. I get my lashes done, and my lash lady was like, they're popping off. It's insane. Your lashes are going like, it just everything, it rejuvenates everything. Brain fog. It helps with energy. I've slept better and better than I have in my entire life. And really, I attribute all of that to NAD. So, but let me go back to your first question. What really is it? So we produce NAD in our bodies from birth. The older we get, the less we produce. So if you see like your son or my daughters with all this energy, they have an abundance of NAD. So by 30s, we're really depleted. And so when you inject it intravenously, it helps replenish those NAD cells, which again, it's in from the top of our head to the tip of our toes.
So you said that you met with doctors to kind of determine how much to take at the beginning and what to do. And I love this because I think there's so many people that are on a medication that do want to get off, and it is really hard. So I think this is such an incredible alternative way to help your body get through that time period, which is just amazing. But I'm curious so how do you begin with someone? Like say someone comes in here, who works with them to determine that dosage and how often?
We have registered nurses who will guide you through of what your goal is. Mm-hmm. And if it's just for vanity, amazing. Like it replenishes your collagen cells. That's another thing. Like fine lines, people aren't getting as much Botox. Like it helps plump everything, your epidermis. But so if that's what you're trying to do, then they will recommend like a 3-pack where you do it once a week. Now, it is not comfortable. That's when you have it in your vein, I personally feel like I'm at the top of a roller coaster right before I go down. And a little bit of not chest pain, but chest tightness, if that makes sense. Now, my husband's a big baby, and he lays like this and is like, nobody talk to me. And he just feels a little more like rapid heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But it literally goes away right when you take the IV out. It's pretty crazy. So a lot of people are scared to get it because you're uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But just truly think about your cells just being pushed through getting an injection of like an energy drink. Mm-hmm. And so your body is kind of like, whoa, what's happening? Now I barely feel anything. Like I'll get a little bit lightheaded for the first 2 to 3 minutes, and then I feel nothing. And now I just get 100 milligram shots once to twice a week. So it's faster than an IV. I get it. I sit down for 5 minutes, and then I'm on my way.
Okay, so if it's your first time and you're coming in, I've never done it before. So you said it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I will say this looks like the best place ever if you're going to be a little uncomfortable. It's so cozy. You've got these great recliner chairs, hot tea, you have blankets, you said. Everything is just so cozy and great. But I'm very curious, how long is the first session typically when you come in for an IV like that for NAD?
So it varies from person to person. Typically, when you call and make the appointment, we always say, okay, please block out 2 hours of your time, which I know sounds like a lot of time, but it all depends on how fast the drip is going. So if the drip is fully, I'm sure if you've ever seen it, we hang it right here, and it's like the little droplets going into the tube that's connected to your vein. If it's really slow, it's obviously going to take longer. Now, if the drip is fully open, it will take 30 minutes. But if you're experiencing those kind of twisted stomach or the heaviness of the chest, we'll just slow it down and those symptoms will decrease. But you can recline and lay back. We'll close the curtains. Our nurses are incredible. They're the best caretakers. You get your hot tea, you can watch a show, but we definitely tell first timers, just block out 2 hours. It could take 30 minutes, but because we don't want somebody to come in here and not be able to finish their bag because they have an appointment or whatever.
That is great to know, because you definitely want to know that you're going to actually get the full effect of it, right? Too. Like, you want to make sure that you finish the treatment so that you can see the full effect, I'm sure, as well. I also have another one of your offerings that I really want to ask about. It's the hyperbaric chamber. It's another one that I have never done. I'm a little bit claustrophobic. So how does that work, first of all, if you are a little claustrophobic? And then also, I'm really curious what the benefits are, because I have seen a lot of people with like injuries get in there. I don't know if it's to help it heal faster or what exactly it does, but what does that hyperbaric chamber do once you're enclosed in it?
Well, so if you struggle with claustrophobia, it may not be the right thing for you. However, it's a lot more space than you think. Like, it's not right near your face. You can lift your arm. It's actually very cozy, for lack of better terminology. Now, the thing is that also takes time. So to get to the below sea level, where you can get 3 times more oxygen, that's what the hyperbaric chamber is. You get 3 times more oxygen than you do on land. And so it takes 15 minutes to get down and back up to barometric pressure. So you have to, it's about an hour and 30 minutes. I work in there. I'll go and lay in there, I'll work, or I'll read a book, you can watch a show. But so the primary function for hyperbaric is wound healing, whether that's muscular or all the way down to the bone. So you're getting 3 times more oxygen that goes directly into the bloodstream and your organs. So it's like your body is just fighting 3 times harder. Our medical director is my cousin, who's a plastic surgeon, Dr. Courtney L. Zolcom. And our main clients who use the hyperbaric chamber are people before and after surgery. So they come before to prep their skin and their bodies. And when I tell you, after 3 times, we get a lot of facelift or tummy tuck patients. It's insane. We need to put it on the website. After 3 times, the bruising, the inflammation, it's like wild from 3 days before. But also a lot of athletes do it. My friend whose husband was a football player, he slept in one for like 3 days. He would get out and then go back in. So it just think wound healing accelerated times 3.
That is so cool. I, of course, have like a mom question that pops into my head. Would that be something good for postpartum and healing? Because I know that's what a lot of moms struggle with, especially with C-sections. Is it something you can do postpartum?
Absolutely. So anything, it's not only just for like an abrasion, or think internally too. After you have a baby, your organs are just everywhere. So yes, absolutely. But also the red light bed would be amazing for that too.
Actually, so for the red light bed, I do want to dive into that one. I have that red light therapy mask. I love it. And you said that your bed actually penetrates beyond the epidermis level. So epidermis is the first layer of skin, correct? And so there's deeper layers. So can you explain what else that can help with? Because you said it actually goes down to the bone.
We have the Prism Pod, and it has 3 different levels of the light, the near infrared light. So it is incredible for collagen and rejuvenating your skin cells. So all of the top of our skin. But what's incredible about it is it also helps with inflammation. Every single thing that we offer here is going to help with inflammation, just in a different way. So the red light pod, if you have joint pain or muscular pain, it's penetrating to that level to help reduce that inflammation. So that's where it penetrates those 3 levels. So a lot of people, we also have 3, there's options to pick. So chronic pain, there's one that's just beauty. It also speeds up your metabolism and heats your inner core from the inside out, pardon me. And so you're also burning additional calories while you're in there too.
So I love that a lot of these offerings that you have deal with anti-inflammation, because I think that's such a huge thing right now in our society. So many people struggle with inflammation. I've been reading like a couple books on it and wellness podcasts and all that, and it just seems like this is such a great addition to add to your life. to help reduce that and help with all, like, there's just so many problems that start with inflammation. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's really, really great that you have all of these offerings, and I can't wait to try them. I also really want to talk to you while I'm here with you about your journey in entrepreneurship, because I think it's incredible what you're doing. This is such a new space, and especially like you said, in Texas and Houston, we're just like the last to get some of these things, and I'm always searching for them, looking for where they are. And you've literally brought it all into one place at WellHouse, which is so cool and such a incredible idea. And I always kind of am curious with women, especially mothers. I know it's so hard to be an entrepreneur and a mom and a wife and kind of do it all. So I'm curious, like, how do you do it all? How do you kind of make everything work as an entrepreneur and as a mom and a wife?
Okay, so I actually started, and a lot of people don't know this, my entrepreneurial journey with protein bars that were called Live for Health, which my daughter's name is Liv, so it's LIV for health. I had just finished dietary science school, and I'm like, there's not a pure, and this was 11 years ago. There was nothing that was super clean to eat, and I wanted to be able to give it to my daughter, and so I started with a protein bar. And I guess I should back up. My husband is a serial entrepreneur, and so he had, before we met, he had opened probably 10 or 11 bars and restaurants before that. And so he was a big kind of, I just looked up to him and was like, okay, I can do this, but you know, with what I'm passionate about, which is at that time was food and fitness. I still had a personal training. I was like a nomadic trainer. Basically, I trained my friends all around Austin, Texas. And so the protein bars was my first business venture. And then I realized I'm too neurotic and OCD. I couldn't let anybody make them but myself. And that just is not a good business plan. So we opened something called Green Goes, Greenengo, which was a fast, healthy, grab and go salad concept in Austin. We like to say it was a little before her time. We opened 3 and they did well, but just the market wasn't there yet. We had one on the drag, and you know, kids weren't wanting to pay $17 for a salad 11 years ago. So that I did food, and then I'm like, okay, food is for the birds. I really want to focus on my main passion, which is helping others with their fitness goals, but on a broader scale. I went to school here. I met my husband here, and I love Austin. We have a lot of businesses in Austin, but my heart has always been in Houston. I love it. I felt like there was a need for a small boutique fitness studio here. And so in 2018, I opened a Legree studio right down the street, actually. And so that was like my first real big business just on my own. I had 10 megaformers. I went and got my license in LA. I was very passionate about it. I still am. I love the Pilates and reformer. I decided to part from Legree about 3 years ago and had someone create a different machine so that I could expand, which is called an X-former. And I did that 2 years ago because I really wanted to expand. Fortunately, my studio LHTX Fitness has done really well since the beginning, and I attribute that to my incredible coaches, and we've just created a community of like-minded women who just want to build each other up to just continuously be healthy. And they're crazy. You've done it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart. It is not regular Pilates. It's for hardcore, badass women and men. But then I wanted to expand. I feel like there's always room for growth, and I have loved rebounding and heated concepts. I've done them in LA and New York for years. But again, Houston, and I get it. It's really hot and humid here, but there's so many benefits to heated concepts. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Tracy Anderson, she's been doing heated concepts for 20 years. Yeah. So I finally was like, okay, it's time to make the move, which is hard because when you have kids, And when they're little and my husband travels a lot, it's you have to, when people ask me what balance do you have, I'm like, I have my own balance. I really don't have balance. Yeah. I make it a point to be there for my kids at bedtime, and now their sports, like, which they have tons of sports. Yeah. And then if I'm not there for picking them up, that's fine. As long as I'm there for the important things, I feel like that's best, because I want them to look at me and be like, okay, my mom works really hard for something she's so passionate about. So at that time I was like, okay, my kids are old enough now that I can put more effort and I want to expand. And then the space next door came available, and I have a very dear friend, Megan, who is experienced in operating larger gyms, because I'm like, I can't do it by myself. I had 10 employees, and I was like, this is a lot. And opening a bigger space means quadruple the employees. And so I brought her on as a partner, and it's been incredible. Now we're next door. We've been open 4 months. And this space became available next door, and I was still going to all those places, the Houstonian. I was going to all these different places for my IVs, for this. I'm like, we need to just open our own place. I'm spending so much money. And for recovery, we talk about the inflammation, but it's also, people don't take time to recover. Moms, I mean, we're like, okay, we have an hour to do this. We have an hour to get our nails done. Recovery is so important. And so that's why this just worked out perfectly for it to be next door to LHTX, because we have to recover, especially the older we get, to stay healthy. Did that answer all your questions?
Yes, I have so much to talk about. I feel like, just to start with the recovery piece, I think recovery is so important, like you said, but it's also important for longevity. And that's a thing that if you neglect it too long, right, then you're struggling later on. And so I think that's something where even I've tried in my own life to try to prioritize these things. Maybe I'm not having the problem yet, like maybe I'm not about to have the surgery or anything like that, but I want to focus on reducing inflammation and these anti-inflammatory practices and the things that you have, honestly, like those offerings. Those are exactly what I look for, and it is hard to find them all in one place. It's impossible. This is it. This is the first one, which is great. And I love what you mentioned also about really just not having balance, because I think sometimes moms in general and women tend to put too much pressure on themselves to like achieve this perfect balance, and like not a single day goes by that's like a perfect balance. Like it's always one side or the other, and it's never perfect. And I think when you kind of let go of needing to kind of pressure yourself to have that, that's honestly when you achieve just peace with yourself. And like you said, like your daughters being able to look up to you and see that you work so hard on something you're so passionate about, to me is so inspiring, especially for all young women. Even for me, I'm like, that's so cool. You've started multiple businesses. And I like how you can kind of admit, this was the problem with this one, or hey, this is why I wasn't as passionate, and you can move on. Because I think that's another part that entrepreneurs also struggle with, is like moving on when the time is there. Like I had an athletic wear company for a while and I loved it, but it was time to move on, and it took me like almost a year. I'm like, I just don't want to, it's my baby. I love it. But it's good to hear from someone like you who's such a successful entrepreneur that you had those businesses before, because I didn't know that. And I have done LHTX. It is hard. I did it actually when I was first pregnant with my son, which is probably a bad idea, because I was like 8 weeks pregnant. I don't even think I announced yet. And I was so tired. And I remember doing it and I was like, wow, this class is like kicking my ass. It was so hard, but I love it. And you're right. It's the women that work there truly encourage you to push yourself and to get out of your comfort zone and to do it. And I think too, like the community you've created in Houston, like around, even like when I found out you'd owned LHTX, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Cause like, I feel like everyone that goes there, there's just such a great community of women. And when you're around that, you want to be better and do better and work out harder. And, then like when I see this stuff, I'm like, oh, I want to try it all. And now there's other like-minded women here who are coming for the same reasons, which I think is so cool. But I absolutely love what you're doing. I also have one last question for you. I want to talk about your wellness habits and some little tricks that you have at home. So what would you say is like your top at-home wellness tip for someone who's just like looking to get started taking better care of themselves? Something maybe you do every day or you've learned over the years.
Well, I do get this question asked often. I'm an extremist. So, I mean, we could talk about, I'll tell you the things that, so every single day I take athletic greens. I've done that since, or AG1, whatever it's called now. I've done that since 2019 when they've blown up. But I would have to get it from like my holistic physician. And I take that every single day. I love it. I think that it's helped with my energy levels. Sometimes I eat really healthy, but sometimes you're not getting all of that nutrients from your food. So if there's one thing, I would say athletic greens with really cold water. I take Armra, which is colostrum. I'm obsessed with it. I give it to my kids. It's cleared. My daughter had like little eczema on her arms, completely gone. I love it. I do that. I just put it straight in my mouth. And so do I'm like, if my 11-year-old and my picky 8-year-old can do it, so can you. So you just put it straight in your mouth. I don't take a ton of supplements because I get IVs. So I do an IV because I am at LH Checks coaching a lot in the infrared room. I get an IV once a week. Whether it has NAD or not, depends. If I got the shot, then I'm not going to put NAD in my IV. But I do cryotherapy almost every day. And that's actually one of the treatments we didn't touch on. But the cryotherapy, it is so quick. It's 3 to 4 minutes. It's negative 124, which everyone's like, oh my God. But you can go in your clothes, the least amount of clothing possible. But it gives you, it's a fight or flight thing. But it is an instant gratification. It gives a huge rush of endorphins. It helps with my stiffness of my back, any type of soreness. But those are the things that I do almost every single day.
I love that. I also love the cryo. I learned this when I did the ice baths, which I'm curious if you can tell me similarities, but kind of pushing your body to get into that fight or flight response and really pushing yourself to get through it and kind of get to a place where you're okay afterwards. And I think teaching your body that you can be mentally tough, is that kind of something that comes with cryo as well? It's something that I learned with Wim Hof method and like the ice baths and all that, but is it something that cryo does too?
Yes, it's very similar. So you go into that fight or flight immediately. Ice baths are typically 36 to like 48 degrees, I think. So, but you're wet, so it's different. This, I hate the cold, but I'm like, okay, I can withstand anything from 3 to 4 minutes. And so you go in, it's 3 to 4 minutes, and it forces you, like you feel like you're gonna die. At least I do. That may be a little dramatic, but and not a great selling point, but you're fine. But you go in and you just, it is, your brain goes into this space where you're like, I've got to get out, I got to get out, I got to get out. And you convince yourself, no, I'm fine. And if I feel like I'm going to die, I just can push the door open and get out. But the main thing I love about it is that same with the ice bath. Once you get out, you have this euphoric feeling. I actually like to go at 3 o'clock because it's right before my second day starts with my girls. And so I can't drink coffee because I'm, getting older, and I'll stay up all night long if I drink coffee at 3. So I'll go in there and just get that immediate rush of energy after. But yes, it's the same methodology of where you're fighting with yourself, and that's why it's so great there's been tons of studies on helping with anxiety and other just sorts of things where you're having to find that mental strife to overcome. And then you have all of those additional benefits.
I love the idea of that because I think too, the energy, that's something I noticed from the ice bath, just from getting out, being that cold and then getting out. I don't know what it is, but I just have so much energy the rest of the day and sometimes even into the next day. So I think that's so cool that you do it every day too. And especially around that kind of like 3 p.m. slump time. Exactly. Yes. And especially with kids, which I totally understand. That's so important to have as much energy as you can. So thank you so much for joining me and taking time out of your day to meet with me and talk about all things health and wellness and fitness and entrepreneurship. I've really Really loved it. And I think you are such an inspiration to women and especially to young girls and entrepreneurs. You've had such incredible success and it's so fun to learn from you. So I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for joining my Ask an Expert series. I'm so excited to dive more into health and wellness.